Hey, Bruce. Can you hear me okay? Hi, and that's something. Can you hear me all right? Uh, hey, Eddie. How's the sound coming across? Hey, Joe. Loud and clear. Good. That's what I needed to know. Hi, DGB. Oh, getting all set for today. Hey, Bruce. Sound is IK. Great. Well, that's okay too. Even better. Uh, okay. Let me tell you what I'd like to start off talking about today is that something that came up earlier. Get my hat on straight. I've had about five different hats on. It's been really cool. Hey, Kaz, and it went something like this. I was at a watch store called Cellini's in New York City. It's on Park Avenue, and the I was talking to the proprietor, and this is the guy that carried Wooten Lannon, Beauvais. Let me see what else he had. I was looking at some Laurent Ferriers, and he has Parmigiani, Fleurier. He's got all of these really top brands, and of course he's got some other ones too that are like I think he has Rolex as well. And there's a big Rolex store in over on Fifth Avenue, so I'm not sure whether they let him have Rolex or not. But anyway, hey Tom, uh, and so he was we were going on about this, that, and the other thing, and yeah, they have Moritz Grossman. They've got they got everything. And so anyway, what happened to Bill? Did something happen to me? What? Anyway, so it was the guy wanted to sell me a watch naturally, and he was showing me some hey Jean, uh, and so I was looking at some Lawrence Ferrier, and they were nice. There was you got to really like a watch. I had on my FP Journe, and I that's one thing you guys probably know. If you wear a good watch or one that looks like it's worth a lot, they pay attention. And so it was I just happened to have it on. I wasn't making a big deal about it. And so hi Mark. So they wanted to, they were showing me these different watches and stuff, and are you really interested in this? I said, listen, guys, to be honest with you, I want to get a Langenheim. And he said, well, we've been thinking about carrying Langenheim and so forth. I said, well, that's good. And so anyway, well, I got my Langenheim as I had on my video and so forth. But so I said I'm really not going to get anything until after I get that, and then what I would probably do is connect them somehow, get in touch with them here in Connecticut, and save on the 8.5% sales tax they have in New York City. And thanks, Kaz. So anyway, we were talking about this, and here he's got all these fantastic watches. And as I was leaving, he said, he said, you'd really, really impressed by how Rolex is able to, over the years, keep the value of their watches so high. And that was sort of an interesting comment, especially in the context of all of these other fabulous watches that he had. And the so I was thinking about that earlier today. Somebody asked me about getting a Grand Seiko spring drive. And what did I think about it? Well, I mean, first of all, Grand Seikos are, I think they're very well made watches. They're great looking watches. And the spring drive, I think, is very innovative, okay? Because essentially what you have is that the action from the rotor drives the electricity that drives the quartz movement. And of course, that makes it far more accurate than your more traditional ones. And so they asked me about that, and I asked them. I said, given a choice of two watches, here you have two watches, and one's an FP Journe, the other one's a Grand Seiko with your speed drive. What is it called? I just lost it. Hey, Inkart. Um, so the spring drive, yeah. I said, and we'll just assume they're the same price because Grand Seiko has some that are up there as well. And he said, well, right. So he said, oh, I take the FP Journe. And I said, why? I said, well, look at the craftsmanship that goes into that and everything else. And so it was sort of, I said, yeah, me too. Is that if there are a lot of other watches I would take, nothing against the spring drive, nothing against this incredible accuracy of those watches or the smart technology that went into them. I mean, at some point, I think all of us have to face the fact, one way or the other, is that accuracy, while I think is important as a value for our watches, in other words, you don't want to get a watch that doesn't keep very good time. On the other hand, what are the values of it? Now, there has been so much talk about resale value. Well, what about resale value? Resale value is a value, I think. And I think that there's some real value, especially among people who like to flip watches. And their idea of collection is that you get a watch, you enjoy it for a while, and then you trade it on, and then you sort of go around doing that. And the oh, okay, hang on. I know, Kaz. Let me finish. I haven't finished yet. So, I think that accuracy is something that's there that we would like to have. I mean, in other words, if you've got a really good watch by a top watchmaker, let's say a Dufour, and it didn't keep accurate time, you'd think something is wrong with it, and that would be absolutely true. But yes, watch is a pleasure on the wrist. So let's talk about that. So they're exactly, Kaz. This is sort of along the lines of my point. There are values though that we look at in watches, and the ones we hear the most about, unfortunately, is resale value. And resale value, I think, is a function more of marketing. And I think that what this the guy at Cellini's was saying, wow, they got this great marketing. And so people are buying marketing to some extent. And this is not to say that Rolexes aren't fine watches, they are. But so let's talk about some of those things. Innovative design. Okay, great. That to me is a value. And there's, I guess, the Grand Seiko with the spring drive. Yes, that's innovation, but it's innovation in another direction. Okay, let's see. What do you got to say? If I'm spending $2,000 on any watch, it needs to be under plus 10 over $5,000. Better be a Costco, COSC. I think it's COSC, not Costco. No excuses. On Costco, they have interesting watches too. Okay. So anyway, now, so yeah, I know that was funny, John. Typo. I figured it was either that or somehow it was the auto spell. I have more fun with auto spelling goofing me up than anything else. Okay. All right. So it's got to be, you want accuracy in terms of what we have. Okay. Phones are too fast. My iPhone that I use to set my other watches with, yes. This one of my other newcomers, my Tristan Vanderklaw is got a what's it called, a Soprod A10 in it, accurate as all get out. Hi, Deacon. And that's great. I'm glad it is. But the thing that I want for it is I want the moon phase to work right along with everything else. Okay, so that's important. The other value I have is design. I think somebody mentioned that. Well, they mentioned innovation, but I like well designed watches, and by that I mean attractive watches. Okay, that are done well. There's some goofy ones that some of the best watchmakers have put out there. Yeah, you get those every now and then, but still, good design and creative design. I like creative design in certain respects. But what are some other things uh, beside? Let's say uh, we have the value, the resale value. That's one value. We've got the innovation. That's another. What are some other ones? Craftsmanship, reliability, and accuracy. Okay. Yes, those are all important. Craftsmanship is extremely important. Reliability means that it's going to be ticking the next day. It does not going to break on you. And accuracy, finishing on movement. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love the finishing on a movement. Complications. Okay. Complications. Somebody brought that up earlier, and we were talking about that. Heritage. That's another thing. The vibe of the watch and how it makes you feel. Yes, that's sort of a gestalt. It's hard to put together, but yes, I agree. Let's talk about complications. Now, I'm not one who puts a lot of value on complications, except very certain ones. Okay, and by that I mean. Um, Watches that are going to tell you everything, and who's going to win the World Cup. You name it, you put that into a watch. That are sort of dog pile of complications I don't care for too much, and the watch I probably have that has more of that than anything else is my Hemispheres by Parmigiani, and that's because it's got the dual time plus the dual night and day plus the time plus the date and so forth, and it's a very practical watch, especially for travel. But I tend to like simple ones. This one's pretty simple. It's time only, pretty much, minutes, hours, and seconds. This one is simple except for one complication, and that's the moon phase. And the moon phase is actually tied into the mechanism that's in the watch for date. So anyhow, I would assume that as the price goes up, you get craftsmanship, quality, finish. See, this is, but throw a modified decorated ETA and charge 10,000 plus, they lose me. Okay, yeah, this is John. You hit the nail on the head with that one. Those are all good points. Complications are sometimes a trap. Something as simple as a power reserve complication is interesting sometimes. I agree. That's exactly what my Chronomet Souverain is. My FP Jones Chronomet Souverain. You got time, and the complication is the power reserve indicator. However, there's something else that's sort of inside, that's sort of hidden, and that is in the SUV range, or at least I think the sort of the line that would include the blue and some of the other ones, is the double barrels that are used for. Uh, they only use the 60% middle of the power reserve that they have available. The first 20% and the last 20% are not used, and the reason for that is for a constant force, and so that they have that. That to me is far more important complication that you can't see. The one complication that I would really like to have is a Remontois Egalite. Trouble is, they're really expensive. I know FP Jorn has them, and so does Langenheim has them. There's some other ones that have them, but that was a complication that you don't even see. It's a complication for the movement, not for the display. And but that's something again. That's a matter of taste. Gronfield has them as yeah, Gronfield would yeah. They're is that's sort of a complication at the very top. The same thing with resonance. You've got very few watchmakers have that, and it's something like you look at it and it's sort of like well, it just sort of dual time. It can be, but it's something other than that. God, I keep hitting my microphone. If it's going bump or something, that's my hand getting all crazy on everyone. Okay, people may not like the Frederick Constant for many reasons, but a steel perpetual calendar all in house for 5,000 is a great bargain. I'd agree. Yeah, the one thing about here's what I don't like about Frederick Constant is they use gold plated on the dial. Now, if you're going to have gold on the dial. And the problem with gold plating on the dial is that your hand is all over it and it wears it off. On other places, it can act as a protector. But that's why you mentioned Frederick Constant in steel. That's probably a pretty doggone good watch. Perpetual calendar would be another one I think I'd like to have too. And like you say, for in-house for $5,000 is a pretty good deal. Okay, what are some other things that you guys think are valuable? Weren't they just bought by Citizen? Yeah, they were bought a few years ago by Citizen. Yeah, Citizen owns them. Citizen's got deep pockets, so and that helps. It's always good if you get bought up by a company like Cartier, for example, is owned by Richemont Group. And the thing about what Richemont did, not only for Cartier, but also for Vacheron Constantin and for Piaget, they put together Val Fleurier. Okay, and Val Fleurier is to make movements for them they're basically not ETA. Okay. Yes, and they have Alpina as well, and it's why Alpina is starting to have in-house movements. There you go. This is why something like Citizen buys you, and you've got some deep pockets there. So they need that too. Um, who was it? Frederick Constant was started by a couple, a young man and woman who were Dutch, and when they first started, they decided to move to Switzerland to give themselves credibility. Um, so I think isn't Groenfeld, isn't he Dutch also? I think he is, but I'm not positive. Um, the Dutch have some good ones. My Christian Vanderklau is Dutch, so I'll say something nice for the Dutch. Also, too, there was one of the most famous theorists in the way watches and clocks work was also Dutch. I can't remember his name though. Um, anyway, okay. So, what are some other values that you have? Getting a lot of good stuff like John mentioned, you get a perpetual calendar for much better price. One of the ones I like, oddly enough, is and I say oddly enough because I think it's really well priced. Is a Vacheron Constantin. I think it's a 1942 is what they call it, but they've got an annual calendar in it. Yes, just a very clean looking watch with the calendar. Deacon, what about prestige? Um, you're right. Here's the tricky part. Okay, now I don't want to get anybody mad, but this is what I've seen happen. All right, prestige depends on the context of it. You go to a watch show and a prestige is very different. I was at a watch show, and somebody saw. I think I had on my resonance, my FP's on resonance, and somebody stopped me. In fact, a lot of people did. They said, "Oh, wow, what's that?" And I told them. And whenever anybody asked me about my watch, I always ask about theirs. Well, that's what this is. And so this guy said, "Oh, I got a Rolex." Um, it, it's like I said, well, there's nothing wrong with Rolexes. They're good watches. And he said, "Yeah, but look around you." And so it depends on the context. I think that a person is in. It's in some contexts, the Rolex will be like they like to talk about it as the crown, the king of the watches. Well, okay, in some little duchy they may be. So, Patek are the kings of prestige, yeah, and among the general public, the lumpen proletariat. Hi, Zeus. Uh, so, like I said, if that's important to you, here's the thing: is that you still want to get something other than just the prestige. I would think. I have a little Patek Philippe. I almost never wear it. Not that I have anything against it. It's I just don't. I don't know. It's if I did, I suppose people who they know what a Patek Philippe is, they're going to know what a Patek Philippe is like 100 years before they know what a Lang and Heim is. I would love the CVDK over any Rolex. Yeah, well, that's this is CVDKs. The people who know this was something was sort of a it was almost ruthless if you stop and think about it. If you don't stop and think about it, it's sort of almost zen. um, there used to be a really active group called it was called the Hour Lounge. That was what it was called, and it was sponsored by Vacheron Constantin. And they're talking about watches, and Vacheron Constantin is one of those watches that you've got to know something about watches. You're not going to see a Vacheron Constantin and say, "Oh, wow, that's like a super good watch." If you know a little about watches, then you know that pretty quickly. But by and large, you're not gonna know it right away. And they had a sort of a saying. It was simply went like this: "If they know, they know." And this is it would depend on the context. I could wear my most expensive watch that I have in certain contexts, and people would say, "Oh, I'd rather have a Rolex." And I probably would. And again, it depends on what you know. If they know, they know. Anyway, like I said, that's a very subtle thing. It can be very nasty. Okay, in this respect, it's exclusive in the sense that you're leaving out people who are trying to learn about things. Daniel, is the Maurice Lacroix underrated? You bet. The reason I say that is not because I think so, but this guy that I met, I got um, a Maurice Lacroix for the movement. I think I mentioned this before. I got this little guy here. He's got a Jacquet 736 movement. I got at the light here. See if I can get the thing. Anyway, this has a Jacquet 736 in it. Love the movement. It's a case-shaped movement. It's not a little round movement and a rectangular one. And it's got a good heft to it. That's one thing I like in a good watch. They have a certain heft to them. And so the Daniel, this is from the Masterpiece line. There and this friend of mine who's a watchmaker. In fact, he's a master watchmaker. He used to be a judge for the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie. When I took it up there to show him one of my new watches. I take my watches and we talk about watches and go out and have fish tacos together. Anyway, so he really went on and on about Maurice Lacroix and how much he liked him, and he said he knew the rep here, and he said, but I think one of the problems they had was that for years they used ETA movements, and were not the most forthcoming about it, I might add. They had some other phony baloney names for them. But then they started making their own movements, or they'd use movements like that Jacquet 736. So Parseval value is measured by consensus in the watch community. Well, it depends on which part of the watch community you're in. Okay, it was, there's certain parts of it. There's certain parts of the watch community. You hang out with the guys at Red Bar. They're a whole different watch community, you know, uh, than the boys in the boiler room. There are different contexts, Parseval, and so that when we talk about the watch community, come on, I don't know any two watch collectors who can get together for more than 5 minutes and not disagreeing about something about the value of some watch. I mean, that's what makes it interesting. If we all agreed on what was the best, I think we'd have problems. And then we change our minds too, which is the old part. Some watches, like, yeah, I changed my mind about Maurice Lacroix. I thought, it was sort of like Rotto, who was proud of the fact that they never would use, they'd always use someone else's movements. Again, primarily ETA and Salida. So anyway, so let's talk about some more values or things that are value in watches for you. What are some other things? We talked about money. We talked about prestige. We talked about craftsmanship. We talked about accuracy. What else is there? I ain't always right, but I've never been wrong. Well, that's an interesting way. I've been, according to my wife, it's the other way around. Okay, so what are some other things we value in watches? Well, let me ask you this. Right now, what is the favorite watch that you own, that you currently own, and what is it about it that makes it your favorite watch? Now, all of you have watches. You must have at least one. Heritage, okay? You like Heritage the most. All right, what are some other ones? Okay, Deacon, you're the only guy with a watch. Orado is an interesting brand. Very interesting brand. I have a Rado, and I've had it for years. A good friend gave it to me years ago. Rado was interesting because of the innovations with case material. They use case materials before anyone else. So, okay, Barry, BKT, um, AP Royal Oak. Okay, why is AP Royal Oak? Hi, Robert. Why is the AP Royal Oak your favorite, Barry? Finishing. Okay, yeah, that's. I like good finishing too. Manual wind over automatic. Me too. I like that a lot. Okay, JLC Master Ultra Thin, small seconds, the movement in the case thinness. Yeah, I really like thin cases too. If you got a thin case, that means you got a thin movement. Hey Abdul, how you doing? Glashütte Original Sport is your favorite. Okay, John, well, what's your favorite thing about it? Hi, Cohen. Can't stand a watch that doesn't wear comfortably. Yeah, now that's a good point. Um, when I got my Beauvais Fleurier with the Bowen crown that looked like it took a pocket watch and put a strap on it, which essentially is what it was designed after. I thought, oh, that thing can't be comfortable, but I want it anyway. Turned out one of the most comfortable watches I have. And that's important to me. I agree. If I have a watch that's not comfortable, I won't wear it. And I like to wear it. The GLC Geophysic, that's a wonderful watch. Yeah, I like that one too. I'm starting to like manual wine much more. Yeah, they're great. I mean, it's something. All of my best watches are manual wine. Hey Alex, how you doing? X Factor, or is it? See, thoughts on JLC perpetual calendar, or is an entry Saxon is more appealing? I don't know. Hi, Ant. Alex, okay, X Factor. What do you mean by X Factor? There's something there, you're not quite sure what it is, but it just goes zap and gets you. Is that what you mean, Alex? Because I understand. Okay, I really like my Moser. Oh, but it's gold. I don't want to scratch it. It does not have a deployant. Well, get a deployant for it. That's not hard. And I tell you, I love H Mosers. Love them. Lang Saxonia. Ooh, that's a nice watch. That's a wonderful watch. Materials, 22 karat rotor. Yeah, I like that. Decoration gooseneck and is secured to the case polymer like shock absorbers. Okay. I think A. Lang and Son and Glass Hoodie Original are my favorite pre-owned, and Nomos and Rolex for new. Okay. I think a sitcom show with you and Don. Okay. I don't, one of us would walk away. I'm afraid, Deacon. All right. So let's talk about some other stuff. What we got? Okay, let's try this again. Lang, Saxonia, or JLC Perpetual Calendar. Lang, Saxonia, or JLC Perpetual Calendar. I'd probably go with a Saxonia to tell you the truth, but I do like the JLC Perpetual Calendar. I sort of like, who was his name? Oh, I forgot his name. But he was this guy. He said he never met a man he didn't like. I'm afraid I'm that way with watches. I spent some time with him. Never met a watch I didn't like. Will somebody or other. I can't remember Will's last name. Let's see. All my watches make me happy, even Wolstock and Seiko. Yeah, that's Stephen. That's a I know how you can feel that way. Sometimes I'll go from watch to watch, and one day one watch will make me, oh wow, I'm really glad I have this watch, and then another day it'll move to something else. That I understand too. Um, Z Blue Milgauss, purely for the lovely dial. Boy, I don't blame you. I love the Milgauss dial. I just like that watch. I like everything about it, especially that lightning bolt secondhand they have. Um, I think the hobby as a whole is subjective. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, a lot of it's subjective, but a lot of it's not. Don't put it that way. We get a watch and everybody goes, "Oh, that's the worst watch ever." You might think twice about it. But I don't think we have too much of that. Let's hope not, anyway. I say that the JLC as a JLC super fan. Yeah. Hey, Javier. Now that 5 you acquired the LNH, are you done for the year? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. We'll have to wait and see because I don't know either. Um, okay, guys. Well, listen, my time is up, and I want to thank you all for coming. And just like I said, this is something that I've been thinking about. And by the way, Don and I get along fine. That was that was a very short episode that nobody seems to forget except Don and me. And for the rest of you guys, thanks for coming. And tomorrow I got something I think you might like. It's very different than what I had for Friday's video. Hope to see you then. Take care.